Welcome, and thank you for clicking on this video. In this one, we're going to be checking out the Ibanez AGB200 semi-hollow bass. I'll let the cat out of the bag. I really like this. But let's check it out. I'll tell you what I think about it, and I'll point out some really nitpicky details. Stick around. Let's check it out. I think there have been several different iterations of this bass because I remember seeing one of the original versions over 10 years ago. But I think over the years, they've changed factories, probably changed some of the specs. But this is the latest version. I bought this brand new. Let's talk about some of the body woods. And here is where things get pretty confusing. So if you look at the Ibanez website, they are advertising this to be a linden top, linden back and sides. But if you look at other websites, some say it's maple, and one other website went so far to say this was basswood. Whether or not it's linden or maple, I don't know. But the Ibanez website says this is now a linden top, back and sides. Same thing with the neck. You can see through the transparent finish that it is a three-piece neck. And the Ibanez website is saying it's a three-piece with maple and NATO. The fretboard, from the place I bought it from, is calling it a bound walnut board. But again, the Ibanez website is calling this rosewood. Now, looking at it, it doesn't look like walnut to me. I think it looks much closer to rosewood. So that further suggests that there have been multiple iterations of this bass. So have a close look at the one you're looking at before you decide to buy. Otherwise, this is a semi-hollow bass. It's got F-holes, but there is a center block that runs down the middle, and you can see it through the F-holes, and you can hear it through the back. Hollow, hollow, solid. So they do sound different. There are two humbucker pickups here, and this is an entirely passive electronic package. So master volume, master tone, and a pickup selector switch that allows you to go from neck pickup, both pickups, and bridge pickup. Output jacks on the side, set neck, very lovely binding that's both on the back and the sides and on the neck as well. And it has pretty modern looking tuners, but the tuner keys do feel like plastic and not metal. Looking at the bridge, to keep the kind of traditional semi-hollow bass aesthetic, there is a two-piece bridge system. So you lock the ball ends here on the tailpiece, and this part here is made out of metal, unlike the AFB model from Ibanez, which I think has a slightly larger body, but a wooden bridge. The string spacing here is 19 millimeters, and you are able to individually intonate each of these saddles, which is cool. If you want to raise the bridge height, you need to use a flathead screwdriver and raise the whole bridge from these 2 points here. So you are unable to change the individual saddle heights. You can only go up and down and change the tilt from these two screws. The nut width is measuring about 1.625 inches, so in between a jazz bass and a precision bass, jazz being 1.5, P bass being 1.75, so that's in between. This particular example on the scale came in at 7 pounds and 11 ounces. For a semi-hollow bass, it feels kind of chunky in your hand, but overall, the weight is quite manageable. Let's check out some of the sounds we can get from this cool looking bass. Let's start with the neck pickup. We'll have the volume all the way up, and let's start with the tone all the way up. right, let's roll the tone knob down to about 50%. Neck pickup. Let's now roll the tone knob all the way off. Still, neck pickup. Now, palm muting on this bass with the neck pickup gives you a nice, fat, pillowy, warm sound too. So if you're just doing a lot of kind of 1-4-5, bluegrassy, country type stuff, I think this tone works for that as well. Let's now put the pickup selector switch in the middle so we can run both pickups together. Volume still all the way up, and let's roll that tone knob all the way up to 100. All right, let's roll the tone up down to 50%. All right, let's roll the tone knob all the way off both pickups. Let's now hear the bridge pickup by itself. Let's roll that tone knob back up to 100. Let's roll the tone knob down to 50. Bridge pickup. And now all the way down to 0. Bridge pickup. Okay, let's now hear this bass in the context of a drum track and we see how the different sounds kind of blend in and sit in with the drums. So we'll have 4 passes to this comparison track. In the first half, we will hear the neck pickup soloed, and to kind of split the tonal difference from the tone knob, we'll have the first pass with the tone knob at 70% and the second at 30%. And then in the second half, we will run both pickups together, again with a tone knob at 70 and then at 30. All right, here we go. I hope you enjoyed that playing example. Please let me know what you thought of the tones by leaving a comment below. My assessment. As I kind of alluded to in the intro, I think that is a super cool bass. When I first opened the case, I thought it kind of looked and felt a bit chunky and a bit large. But once you kind of settle in with the instrument, the wider size of the lower bout and kind of the neck positioning kind of melts away and becomes quite comfortable to play. Similarly, I initially thought that this sharp edge would cause some pain from contact with my forearm here. But again, like once I have this in the playing position, it became quite comfortable, and I didn't notice this sharp edge nearly as much as I thought I was going to. So I adapted to kind of the physicality and dimensions of this instrument very, very quickly. And in fact, soon after I got this bass, I played it live and stock strings and everything. So instant comfort for me with how this bass fits. In fact, I took it out to play a Remembrance Day service just yesterday, and it sat in really, really well. And my guitar player, or rather the guitar player who I play with, really liked how it sounded and how it blended in with his semi-hollow guitar. Let's now talk about the overall fit and finish of this bass. Overall, I have to say the craftsmanship and the build quality for this price point. So I paid slightly over 900 Canadian dollars for this before tax. And for 900 Canadian dollars, the workmanship is excellent and well exceeded my expectations. So if you look at the sticker, it says it's made in Indonesia. So it probably came out of the Cortec factory rather in Indonesia. But for $900, this thing is built solidly. It feels very stable and very solid. And I really can't complain at this price point. Now, if you were to really push me and say, well, what's wrong with it? There are a few kind of finish flaws, but at this price point, you can't really expect much more. So let me give you some examples. So if we look at kind of the neck joint with the body, again, this is a set neck, so no screws, is glued in. If you look at the edge, so the interface between the top and the neck, you can see some bubbles in the finish. So have a look at this picture. I mean, it's pretty minor, and I'm being really, really nitpicky here. I don't think that affects the neck stability in any way, shape, or form. It's either in the kind of the pre-finish prep or the slightly overspray from the polyurethane finish that got sprayed on top. It's not a big deal, but if you're really looking, it's there. Similarly, if you look inside the F-holes and look at how the back is glued to the center block, there is some glue that has beaded out that you can see. Now, normally you can get rid of this with sandpaper and a very sharp chisel, but that takes time to do. And the more time people spend on an instrument, the higher the price goes. It's there. Does it affect playability? No. It only does if it rattles, and it is so minor that I don't think it's a big deal. But again, I'm being super nitpicky here. In terms of the hardware, this chrome two-piece bridge is very solid. It doesn't move around. It looks solidly built. What I like about it is it doesn't have a floating tail piece here like my Hofner does. And the main reason for that is fewer things that can push the strings out of tune. So on those floating tail pieces, if the top of the case kind of sits too much on it, or if you hit it with your hand or something else, then you can kind of bend your strings out of tune that way. So having a metal stop tail piece is great. What I will say though is the 2-point here will allow you to adjust the action kind of in a tilt and up and down fashion. But these saddles, you cannot individually adjust the saddle height. Now, on this particular bass, I don't think that's a huge deal because the fretboard radius is pretty flat. So it doesn't have that kind of vintage small radius curvature to it. So I think you can get away with it on this bass, but if I were to have a wish list, I would wish that each individual saddle had their own up and down height adjustment. They do, however, have individual saddle intonation adjustments, and those are accessed via these little Allen screws here at the back. When I first got it and I looked at the tuners, these plastic tuning leaves kind of made me go, oh no, here we go again. Because one of my biggest gripes with my Hofner is, the plastic tuning keys. Now, having broken a plastic tuning key on stage before, I will tell you, it's like your heart stops because you can no longer tune your bass without taking an adjustable wrench to it. And when you're on stage and you break a tuning leaf, trust me, it's happened to me, it's not a good scenario. So when these came out and I saw them and I felt them and they were plastic, I had a bit of a heart sink moment. So the jury is still out on these, but they still feel more solid than my Hofner ones. The biggest problem with these types of tuners and these types of bridges on a semi-hollow bass is that intonating them and keeping them in tune is always a challenge. But the good thing about this bass is I was able to intonate this pretty darn close to perfect, plus or minus about 1 to 2 cents. And here's a short video clip to prove that. So getting a semi-hollow short scale bass to be intonated to within 2 cents, I think is pretty impressive. So far, ticking all the right boxes. Let's talk about the sound. Now for all of these semi-hollow basses, most people tend to gravitate towards the neck pickup to kind of get that vintagey, warm, woolly, tubby, Hofner-esque type sound. And I think it's pretty good. It doesn't sound as kind of woody, thumpy, vintagey as you like if you're used to a Hofner sound. It doesn't quite do that. So there is a bit more of a kind of a modern edge to it, but it does still sound pretty warm and pretty full. But I think part of it is the metal saddle and the metal bridge unit. I think if you really, really wanted that kind of warmer, tubbier vintage sound, then you probably do want the wooden bridge. But then you're stuck with all the issues of having a floating wooden bridge. So it's a bit of a trade-off. But now having played this live, I will say I didn't miss it. And I certainly, like with some of the palm muting I like to do with like some of the acoustic stuff that I do, I feel way more confident putting my palm on this metal bridge to get that sound compared to a wooden floating bridge, where on my Hofner, I've definitely knocked that bridge out of place and then the bass is no longer in tune. So I think I prefer this from a reliability point of view. Both pickups together, this bass is surprisingly articulate with the stock strings. And soloing past the 12th fret here sounded pretty good to my ears. Now, most of these basses, the bridge pickup soloed is kind of an unusable sound in a musical context. It might be useful to like get harmonic stuff pop out and things like that. But from being a bass player point of view, the bridge solo pickup sound is not really my cup of tea on these styles of basses. And this bass is much the same that way. And that brings me to the topic I want to talk about on this bass. This bass screams for flat wound strings. It came stock with nickel round wounds, gauges 105 to 50. So medium by most people's books. On this bass and just the way it feels, even though I like it, I think it would be better if it had a lighter set of strings on it. I think with the slightly chunkier neck, the bigger body dimensions, the bass already plays a little slower, if you will, compared to like a solid body instrument. But I think from a playing comfort point of view, I would have preferred to have like a 100 to 45 instead of having a 50 up here on the G string. More importantly though, I think the tone of this style of bass is begging for flat wound strings. So if I had a wish list, make it come with flats. So with this bass, with all the kind of metal hardware and the better build construction, if I dare say that, is it more kind of stage worthy? The biggest problem with these though is a lot of them don't fit in gig bags because they're too wide. So the lower belt here, the widest dimension, measures about 14.5 inches. And for a lot of gig bags, that's too wide. As well, with the curved top and curved back, and this pickup selector switch being where it is, sometimes it doesn't fit in a gig bag properly. And sure enough, even though the Sweetwater site says it does fit in a mono M80, in my M80, which has been stretched from use over the past 15 years, it fit, but it's still on the tight side. However, when I use my music area heavily padded 30 millimeter gig bag, that fit beautifully. So when I took it out, I took it in the music area bag and it was just fine. Now you can get hard shell cases for these, but for me, I like having my bass on my back because, you know, I have a cane in my left hand, probably like a flight case in another hand. I still want to be able to open doors without putting things down. So for me, I personally prefer gig bags. So overall, who is this bass for? I think this bass will suit the needs of players who are looking for a different kind of vibe, a bass that has less sustain and a more kind of a woody acoustic flavor to it. Certainly the aesthetic will blend in for people playing in like singer-songwriter type groups or country, bluegrassy type, you know, acoustic type flavors. I think it will fit into those genres really, really well. I mean, I have a few wish list items like, you know, get rid of the switch and give me a volume tone, some color things, very nitpicky construction details. But overall, for 900-ish Canadian dollars before tax and shipping, I think this is an outstanding semi-hollow bass. And it's been performing really, really well for me so far. So if you're in the market for one of these, check it out. All right. Thanks so much for watching this video. Catch you next time.